It's Billy Hallowell. Welcome to the Pure Flix podcast. I'm actually joined today by Becky Thompson and one of our friends, filmmaker Chris Dowling. How you doing today, Chris?
Greetings, my friends. I am well.
So one of the things that's really fun about today, just for like the listeners and the viewers, is that we're actually all friends in different ways, but I don't know, how did you two meet? How did your friendship start?
You want to take it? You take it.
Becky, I was going to let you, but I will take it. I'll tee it up and you can kind of knock it out of the park, okay?
That's the plan.
So Becky had moved to, I'm trying to cliff notes this, to LA, and we had some really good friends, and they said, hey, this really awesome couple is moving in. She's like an author, and she's a Christian author, and you guys should meet them. And we said, well, they're renters. Of course, we don't want to meet them. They're not going to be here for long. They'll probably move out. No, we didn't say that, but we just never connected. But what happened was we started bumping into each other at some events, right? And then we started putting pieces together, and we just started, hey, we should hang out. We started hanging out. I got this super big man crush on Jared, her husband, and we just all like came together. And Danique, my wife, and Becky are great friends. And we actually, when they moved, we were super bummed. And when I come to Tennessee, this is a true story. Becky can back this up. The first thing I do, I don't care if I've got meetings and all these people to do, is I go get ribs at their house.
That's right. I think that's the most important part of that whole story right there, is that you know who you know who you pick first when you go to town. It's the ribs. It's not us. It's the ribs.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, that's exactly how we met. We had a ton of mutual friends when we moved out to LA, but we didn't know each other. And so we actually met at a red carpet event. It wasn't one of your films, Chris. It was a separate event. You're like, I know that. But the listeners, viewers don't know that. So red carpet event, and literally the whole night we kept being like, oh, you know them? We know them. And then we'd go to another group of people and be like, oh, you know them? We know them. The entire night until we were like, well, I feel like we should all be friends. And so, that was it.
So that's how it happened. That's how it happened. So I met Chris when you did Where Hope Grows. Like that was, what year was that? When did that film come out? 2014?
Man, 2015 maybe?
Okay. All right. So we did an interview and we hit it off. So it's interesting. And then Becky and I met a couple years back. So anyway, that's the whole history of that. And the thing is, Becky is sort of the maker of amazing books, and Chris is the maker of amazing films. And so, Chris, I'm going to do the super awkward thing where I ask you to tell us some of the films. Like, what are your favorite films that you've worked on? Give us like 3 or 4 films that you've either written, directed, or produced that people would know.
That people would know. Always the question at the end. Well, I mean, Blue Miracle is one that I was a writer on. It was out on Netflix. We were number 2 on the platform for many weeks. Number 1 most liked on the platform for a week or two. And with Dennis Quaid, if you haven't seen that, I wrote and directed Run the Race. Every time I just say that title, I want to bite my tongue before it comes out because I dislike that title so much, but I really like the movie. It was the first movie it was the first movie that Tim Tebow executive produced, so that was super cool. And that was out in theaters a few years ago. My favorite movie that I've ever done is probably Where Hope Grows, which was the first English-speaking film that starred an individual with Down syndrome, according to the Hollywood Reporter. I like to cite my places in case someone comes back and goes, no, there was a film in 1837 by this one kid. I found it on Wikipedia. So anyway, so I didn't say that. Hollywood Reporter said it. But I do love that film. Wrote and directed that one. But there's various other things. You're like, which ones do you love? Like, did a documentary called Asperger's Arrest that I was a producer on that I absolutely love, and a docu-series called On Tour with Asperger's Arrest that I produced that I love, and did Priceless. I wrote on Priceless, which is, with the band for Can Country, and I'm a big fan of those guys. So that's a smattering of things that are happening, or no, that would be have happened. Now there's things that are happening. So yeah, that's the past. That's the past, Billy. Why were you talking about the past?
I don't know. I had to ask you because here's the thing, though. You named a bunch of movies that are all great, obviously, but sort of the B part of that, the second part of that, is that a lot of those films deal with or dealt with, since we're talking about the past, heavy issues, right? Big issues. And what is it that's kind of like drives you toward a subject or a topic? Because again, you write, you direct, you kind of do it all. But what is it that leads you into those arenas? What interests you?
I mean, it's funny, obviously, because I do like to do things that have like a purpose or a cause behind it for sure. But like if I look at Where Hope Grows, like to me, it's funny because I kind of found my purpose in that. That wasn't like a purposeful thing. I had written this character that had Down syndrome, even though I didn't know anyone with Down syndrome, didn't know much about it. But then through the process of actually making that movie, connecting with David DeSanctis, who is the actor with Down syndrome that played Produce, it really kind of recharted, again, art imitating life, imitating art, which kind of happens to the main character in the movie. But like, I also then came out of that going, dude, this whole special needs community is very underrepresented. And I really love all these people I've met. And there's so much that could be told and it's just not told. And got into ministries with the special needs and organizations. And to this day, I still text with David every day. We are part of a wolf gang that, because my last name is Dowling, which rhymes with howling. So naturally, he created a wolf gang around us, and certain people are allowed in. There's a vote. We vote up and down. So, Billy, if you ever want to put in your, sorry, no
I kind of would like.
We have no she-wolves as of right.
I understand. It's okay.
But Billy, if you want in, I can submit to David, and we will see how it goes.
Well, I've interviewed David, so I feel like I have like a leg up. If you'd like to actually submit me, I would love to be a part of that.
He's tough. We just actually Robbie Tebow just got in 2 weeks ago.
And all right. Well, can you please make that happen? Can you do something? Can you offer me something, help me in some way and make that happen? I'd appreciate that.
All I can do, I have no promises. All I can do is say, I'll try, Billy. I really try.
So how did, in hearing you talk about that though, it sounds like you started to have sort of this, you went in, you obviously cared about the topic, you created this character, Produce, and then it changed your life, it sounds like, in a way, bringing you into all these different arenas that you wouldn't have really maybe gone into had you not done the film. And it sounds like that's been, again, we're talking about a movie that is 6 years old now, that's still having an impact on your life. Is that common for your other projects too?
Yeah, in some ways. Definitely not as much as that one, because again, it really did kind of recreate everything for as far as like my passion for that. But like getting involved with Priceless, like I really delved into like sex trafficking. I was reading, and that was just such a hard read, but like looking up, reading on that, talking to people, watching documentaries. And I don't think it leaves you, obviously, but that was, what was cool was that was really their cause. You know what I mean? Like I felt like with Priceless, I was getting behind, Joel and Luke and Ben and those guys, the Smallbone brothers, and that, like, this is what their passion was. And I was doing my part to help them go, do that in the world. But like, whereas that, or even the Asperger's or Us thing, like that kind of was more into my wheelhouse. And so those are things like, those I'm definitely passionate about. Those stay with me. And I'm hopefully there's some future things. Like I promise you, like in almost every pitch I have now, I'm like, and then there's a guy with Down syndrome that does this. And they're like, all right, sounds good. But like, I want to include that. I want that is this whole talk of underrepresented people in the, or marginalized people in the, in art is like, well, special needs is, I feel like, very much that. So it's cool to somewhat be a voice for that if I can. And I'm honored if at any point I'm able to. So that sticks with me. So, yeah. And David, the actor, he's so good, and he hasn't done anything since then. Like he deserves to do more. So I wanted to be the guy that helps him do more.
That's great. So upcoming projects then. You've kind of hinted at it a few times. What can you tell us? What can't you tell us? What do some of your friends already know? Just kidding. What is something that you can share here on the platforam? Is there anything in the works?
So just whisper, lean in and whisper quietly. We're all friends.
What about that one movie?
So there's two movies that we've already shot. One is this really fun, which Jared was out there and you guys are both aware of, is the Shonda Pierce movie. Roll With It, which I love, and I can't wait for it to come out. It was kind of one of the films that got shelved with the COVID stuff, which we were trying to put out in theaters last October. But it's a karaoke comedy. Dude, it's got such an 80s vibe because that is, that's my vibe. I love everything 80s. So like, it just feels like that. Like, and the music is so good. We got Huey Lewis in there. We got Steve Winwood and Wang Chung and Freebird's in there. We got some fun cameos like Michael W. Smith and Shonda's obviously Heather Land is in there, who's a hilarious comedian, and even Elizabeth Hasselbach does a song up there. So it's kind of like some fun stuff. It's great. So I got that one. Then I have another one that I guess that one I can't share yet, but we're done with it. I would share it, but I was told I can't share it. Not that it's a big one, but it's something. And then there's 3 projects right now that have got scripts that are turned in. One's the biopic of Little Jimmy Dickens. So the script is turned in. We're just waiting now to raise the rest of the funding. There's a faith-based musical that I'm doing with Steve Barnett and Alan Powell, the guys that did A Week Away, if you've seen that. And then there's one other one that I'm not remembering right now, but I'm going to remember it as I'm talking, stalling. What is that one?
There's this other project. Yeah. I mean, wait, so as you're talking about this, because you're just rattling this off like it was so easy, you know, I did this script and I sent it. Like, how long does it take you? Because I think people would be really interested in knowing this in sort of the Pure Flix community. But like, how long does it take you to start a script and like finish it, to actually write the entire thing?
Well, 2 parts. First part is the answer to my last question was there's a football movie based on a 1971 high school championship game that I just remembered. That was a New York Times article that I've got some pretty fun partners with on that. So now, moving forward, we can get to this question.
Good remembering. Good remembering.
Yeah,
Good
I gave you more time, so there you go. You can
here's, for me, I do write very fast in general. So like, there are the first draft of multiple, like that football movie, the first draft I did, it doesn't mean it's a good draft. It doesn't mean it's not going to change a million times. But like I did that in a week. You know, Priceless, the first draft I did in a week. But there's also some where it takes me much longer, where I get stuck and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with this one. And I get bogged down in it because I'm not good at planning. Like I don't go do outlines and beat sheets. I just start writing. And Billy, I may have told you before, but like the first movie I ever did, I was writing 5 pages every day, no matter what. Like I was just, because I think most people, they know their first act, they know their second act, they know the beginning and the end of their movie they're trying to do. They get lost in the second act and they quit. And so you just, it's like a trial by fire. You have to get through it. So it's like, even if it sucks, write 5 pages every day, and then you might go back and change it. But at least you're bridging so you can get to that end. And now you can look at the whole thing and be like, oh, here's what I have. Let me go back and make it not suck. And so that one though, like I was like page 90 or 85. And I was like, God, this movie's about to be over. And it's really not a good movie. So I had to go read everything. And I was like, oh, here it is back on page 15. Like, I went the wrong path and I should have tried something else. Let's try this. And then I scrapped, 75 pages and then I went back and wrote the other thing. But like, so sometimes it takes a little longer, and also then after you turn it in, when you're working for somebody, you get notes. And I mean, that's a whole process. Cause it's like, a lot of times you get notes and they are so horrific. And you're like, why are you doing this to me?
I was going to say, if you don't agree, what do you do? I mean, you're working for them, so you got to do it. But
that's the problem. I think I probably could have been a good attorney. Like I'll write up like my arguments for it and a lot of times I'm not gonna lie. A lot of times I'll be like, oh, you know what? I see that. Okay. And I'm like, okay. And then a lot of times I don't care what you say. I don't care how good your argument is. Like you have to make them have a dog. We need a dog in this, or, whatever. My mom always says that. My mom, whenever she reads anything, she's always like, I think the main character needs a dog, Chris. Like every time she reads it. Anyway, so it just depends. It really does depend, man. And it depends like how you get my mind straight. Like, life gets in the way with everyone's jobs, right? Like I got kids and they're doing sports and school and, I've got a wife and she's doing things. And we're like, so it's like some days there's like where you can just sit down and focus and you're like, oh my gosh, I just wrote so much. And then some days you're like trudging uphill and you get, a page done and you're like, God, that felt like I just went through a battle just to get that out. So I don't know, man. It all depends. I'm sure it's similar, Becky, with you, right? Like, I'm sure some books you kind of like just start cruising, and then some books you're like,
that's it. Yeah. The last book that I just wrote, actually, I wrote 15,000 words, and then I was like, this is the wrong book. This isn't the one I should write right now. And I have a new publisher that I'm working with for this next project. And they were like, cool, we trust you, but this feels scary. So we scrapped those 15,000 words and started over from scratch. And then the book came, like it just flowed. So yeah, it's like I heard someone say the other day that you just have to get the first draft down, and it's called like the down draft. And then everything can get revised from there. That is not a Becky Thompson quote. I wish I knew who it was, but it wasn't me. I'm always so important. Like I always feel like I got to get this right. I don't remember who said it, but just getting it down and knowing that that's like an important part of the creative process. So here's my question, Chris. I know a lot of your story from about like 5 years ago, three and a half years ago on, but I've only heard bits and pieces about how you actually became a writer. And, if I'm watching this video or if I'm listening to the podcast and I'm like, man, what would it be like to start a career, like to just jump in? Because, you've been doing this for forever now, right? Like, you're so old.
There's a reason I have a hat on. It's because this hairline just continues to
just disappearing a little. No, but you've been doing it a while. You're seasoned in your industry. That's a better way to put it.
Yes.
Seasoned. So what would you say, like 2 questions, what would you say to the person who wants to get into this, right? Like, where do they need to start? And what was your beginning like? So you can mix all that in there. I'm just curious.
Yeah. My beginning was like growing up, I always liked to write poems and like short stories and try to make little books for my parents. It's like, I was always into like creating stuff. And then as we got older, we just used my dad's camcorder. Like, not to the extent, like, I don't know have you seen Val? Did you watch the Val Kilmer documentary on Amazon?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you have to watch. It's amazing. But he like recorded his whole life from when they were like little making like pretty legit movies. Now, we didn't make anything legitimate, but we made funny stuff. We'd make ourselves laugh and our parents laugh. And it kind of culminated when I was in high school. We had the option to do it was like a 10-page research paper on cocaine and the effects of it or whatever, or you could make a video about it. So we made a movie called Cocaine, the comedy, and it was hilarious. And we had no idea when we turned it in. We were like, okay, either we're going to get like, this is going to go over really well, or this is going to go over terrible. And it was awesome. And when we watched it in class, and we got a standing ovation, and they started chanting to watch it again. So we watched it again, and we actually got 110 on the project, while everyone else who slaved away and did their research paper got, I don't know, whatever they got. But
wow.
That was fun. And then that I wish I had that tape. It got kind of passed around. That was, those were the big VHS tapes back in the days. We probably had, recorded it over, some bad HBO movie we videotaped on or something. It was just like, just record right over everything. So it probably wasn't even labeled correctly, is my point. It probably said, Pizza Man the movie. And it was like, that was like 5 movies ago on that tape. But like today, it's easy because everyone has access to like a phone or like, online. There's so much stuff you can learn about. But it's hard because a lot of people are like, do I need to go to, and I'll go speak at colleges and high schools, and I always feel bad because they're like, do I need to go get a degree? Do I need to do this? And I'm like, it's kind of trial by fire. Like I would almost always say like, go get involved. So like find out where people are shooting short films or student films, or, if you're ready and you're out of high school, like, go be a PA. That's always my best advice. Go be a production assistant. It is the lowest rung on the ladder. But 4 years from now, while your friends are in, film school, unless they're like partnering up and they're like, oh, I found the next Ryan Coogler or something. And when I was at film school, like, all right, well, you know what? That was pretty good. Good move. Film school is a good move for that person. But, if you're like in, whatever, like Iowa, and you're like, hey, I'm probably not going to, well, cool. Go find it and be a production assistant. Start learning the set, learning what people do, learning what you like, and make connections. That's the biggest thing. Don't be a jerk. Just be a good human being that people want to be around, because then they'll want to be around you. So the next show happens, they'll want to be around you. And the opposite happens. Like if you want to be the dude that's like, I'm too good to get coffee to that executive producer, well, then you're not going to be getting coffee to anyone in the next one because you're not going to be hired. Actually, you might be serving coffee at Starbucks because you're not going to be working in the industry anymore because you just think you're better than that. So, because anyone can write, I think, but the biggest thing is like when you're a young writer is taking constructive criticism with a grain of salt. Like, I'm sure you guys have both done that with your manuscripts where you send them out, you're like, I poured my heart out into this. And then people are like, scratch.
Yeah.
I have been a dream killer. And I don't mean that like really, like I'm kind of being a little, I didn't kill dream. I killed one person's dream, only one, but other people, but like if someone wants to send me something to read, I'm going to be like, hey, do you want real notes, or do you want me to just read and go, hey, whatever. And if they want real notes, I'll do my best. And but a lot of times if it's their first screenplay, like it's not going to be good. And I'm in the same boat. Like my first screenplay is not very good. Second one's probably not that good either, but you learn.
Are you talking about the cocaine movie? Wait, are you talking about the cocaine movie or?
I feel like that was a big hit.
I got a standing ovation. That one was stellar.
I got 110%.
It's hard to beat that.
110% of fans agree. So go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. We need a voting recall on Dowling's 110% of fans agree.
The hanging chads, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So anyway, so I don't know. I mean, it's all networking in this industry. I'm sure you guys obviously know that too. So it's like the people that are PAs with you now, if you stick with it 5 years from now, they're going to be working at an agency or doing something or hiring people. It's like, okay, like cool. We're all, I look back from my friends when we first got there in the late 90s in LA, and like the ones that stuck with it now are like big actors or running production companies or a CFO for, the largest unscripted company in the world. Like but they stuck around. And at one point we were all just schlepping coffee to people.
Yeah.
See, you mentioned, experience over anything else, and then relationships and how you treat other people. Those are three really simple ingredients, in hard work that almost always pay off. I mean, that seems to be when you talk to people, unless you were related to somebody, which is not the norm, who got you somewhere, it was doing those things. And even then you still have to do some of those things, right? To be successful. So
yeah, and you can apply that to obviously any occupation. Like, don't be the guy that people don't want to be around.
Yeah.
Be the guy that takes initiative and gets things done. And I can't remember the third. What was our third one? You said
be nice. Don't be a jerk. Wasn't that your? Or am I making
that's the
that
same
up?
thing?
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Be nice. Don't be a jerk. Becky, have you ever written I've never asked you. Have you ever written a screenplay or a script? Because I have not.
No, I haven't. I had an idea for a movie once, and I kind of maybe mentioned it to Chris at one point, and then as I heard it come out of my mouth, I was like, I wish I could just.
This was the one dream he killed. Now we know the one.
That was it. It was me. It was Becky Thompson. It was me. No, I don't even know what that process is like. The thing is, Chris had a table. He had an official office at a coffee shop in Santa Clarita where we both lived, and he would sit there and write away his screenplays, and I would be across the coffee shop writing away my books. And I would just think, the creative process is so similar, but I would think so often, I could never do that. Like, I could never create backstories and characters. And I don't know. Have you ever written a screenplay?
I mean, no. And I've even thought about, like, I don't think I could write a novel. If I ever tried to write a novel, I know I probably could, but I would have to start with like a teen novel so I wouldn't feel so bad about it when it all came together. Like, oh, it's for teenagers. Who cares? It's for young adults. It's a 12-year-old book. Like, nobody's going to care how good it is.
There's lots of pictures. It's
right.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, so that to me, it's something I would love to, and Chris and I have talked, I would love to do it, but I love hearing because it's such an interesting process of creating something. And Chris, what's unique about you is you create it and you can write it, but then you also know how to direct and bring it to life like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there are some writers who do it all, but you really are rare in that you're somebody I know who does it all. So that's kind of cool.
Well, thanks. And by the way, two things I want to say. First of all, I've had plenty of scripts get poo-pooed on. So it's not like I'm saying like I'm the arbiter of what is good and mighty with scripts. Like, I'll send a script off now and I'll get coverage back and be like, ooh, ouch. But for me at this point, I'm not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm jaded and hardened, so I don't really care.
And you're a dream killer.
And I'm a dream killer. So, anyway, so like I want to say, like, first of all, yeah, I've had that, and I'm definitely not above that. But secondly, like, it really is, if you're a writer director, you're so much more valuable in the industry because like now the process is like they'll pay you to write a script, right? And they'll pay you in steps. So it's like, okay, you write the first draft, and they give you notes, then you write a second draft, and then they give you notes, and usually have a polish. That's pretty typical for 3 steps. But then after you get it there, then it's like, oh, great. Now we're ready to take it to the marketplace. We're ready to take it to the actor or whatever. But then when you do that, if you have to go then now take it to a director, he's going to now get it and read it and go, oh, well, here's all the changes I want to make. And so either the director makes his own changes, or now they have to hire you to come back and start working with the director to make all the changes again. So it's like now you're another month, 2 months in, and then the actor might come on. I mean, so it's like the process so if you were the writer director, you can, as you're writing, you're like, okay, cool. Like, this is what I want to do. So it's pretty easy. So it's very streamlined. So it's definitely an asset to be able to do both those things for sure.
All right. So Becky, do you have anything else? Because I have one like doozy question that I'm going to finish with.
I mean, we started with like a 30-minute non-recorded podcast. So I feel like we've been chatting for a really long time. But if you have an important on the record question you want to ask, it's all yours.
Well, and I've already asked Chris this before, but I want to ask it again because I just love getting people's answers on it. And it's one of those 30,000 foot view questions about your life. But at the end of all of this, you're building a career. You've built, it started with this amazing movie that you did when you were young, and it sparked you into this career. What do you want your legacy to be at the end of all of this? Like, let's say your life is over in 50 years from now, hopefully 100 years from now, whenever, and you look back, what do you want that to be, that legacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of touched on this before, Billy, probably on one of our 7 unreleased podcasts that we've done. But
you are terrible. You are actually, we just had a podcast together that was released.
I'm kidding. I kid. And we just had barbecue and coffee.
We did. We had a great dinner. We did.
No, I mean, again, I would say, the legacy for me is more about like also the legacy for my family, which is I just want to make movies that make a difference that my family can be proud of. And so at the end of the day, like I want people to be changed in some way. And that sounds pretty dramatic. So like, I don't mean like it's a night and day thing, but just like something that that my movies can put something out there that can make people consider to look at something in a different way. And at the end of the day, there's something super magical about the fact that like my kids, like I got a bunch of buddies that like their kids can't watch their movies, or like the friends can't watch their movies, but like there's something so cool about like Blue Miracle where like all of a sudden like I'm hearing from all these families like, oh, my whole family watched it, like we all loved it, and my kids, like their friends are like, hey, your dad's movie was awesome, and like that's cool, and like that's cool for them. Like I still have Evan still has a friend that still wears her Run the Race bracelet from like
Wow.
I can't imagine how dirty and gross it is, and she has to see that title all the time. But anyway, so like that to me, like that's a cool legacy to leave, right? Like that's something but I mean, I also want to test myself and expand. Like, I'd love to do things, and I think I've got some of the stuff that's coming out where it's got a Christian worldview inside of a much different or bigger genre. That's not necessarily made for like the captive Christian audience, if you will. So I think it'd be fun to explore and do all that stuff. And speaking of exploring, before we leave, another exploration is I am now the entertainment consultant for a global real estate company. That sounds pretty amazing, and it's probably not as amazing as it sounds, but it's pretty cool. I got invited to come head up this with just because of my contacts and stuff. So I can move either of you anywhere in the U.S. No, in the world, actually. So you let me know if you need moving. No, honestly, we can. So if anyone needs any moving, man, like I can move anyone out of any city and put them anywhere in any house.
You're making me want to leave New York right now.
I was going to say, leave New York. It all started with all the people I had moving out of California, and I was working with Healy Global, and I was just saying, hey, go to this guy. And then he was like, dude, he's like, why don't you come on and be my entertainment consultant? Because certainly, people that are jumping ship. And so anyway, so there I am. So not slowing down on the writing and directing, but definitely trying to add to the arsenal, if you will.
I love it.
So
we definitely, we know who to call when we're making our next move. Billy, is that going to be you next? Are you heading to Texas?
It may be.
It may be. I feel like there's a strong pull. Yeah, I think there's a strong pull for Billy here.
I think that there is. And by the way, just like getting back to your movies, The Man from Nowhere is a movie that people can watch on Pure Flix right now. And you've got a trillion movies. People can IMDb you and watch them all. And it sounds like there's a trillion more movies coming, and a lot of moving coming.
Too. Dude, I didn't think of that. It should be my new business card. Hey,
that's your card.
It should be.
Or moving.
See?
Dowling has you covered. Healy Global, but also writer-director. Yeah. So, yeah, that's great. I like that, Billy. When I do my Healy Global business card, I'm going to put, do you like movies and moving?
I hope you do. I hope you do.
And my manager did say that. I was talking about, he said, hey, Chris, there's, you're doing the thing where you're like going to do the writer-director thing, and that's a big asset. But he's like, man, if you could do writer-director moving guy, he's like, there's no one else doing that right now. Fincher's not doing it. Scorsese's not even doing that. Like, if you could be writer, director, realtor mover guy, like that would be awesome. So I had to make that progression.
Changing
go.
lives and hearts and locations.
There you
Oh
go.
my, stop it.
See? I should just come up with jingles. I don't even need to write scripts or novels or teen books or preteen books. I can just write little jingle.
This is amazing.
It isn't even a jingle. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, one-liners. Anyway, thank you for coming on today. Becky, as always, thank you. And everybody else, make sure you tune in for another episode of the show next week. We'll see you then.
Bye.